Welcome to another Mastery Empowerment course. We are back with Jean Eng and the Arcturians, who give us healing transmissions of higher frequencies. And we're talking about the Arcturian FOPO transmissions. This is fear of other people's opinions. Boy, do we know that this runs so deep within so many of us. Jean, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Oh, hi, Laura. Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's great to be here and really excited for these next series of transmissions in the Mastery Empowerment class.
Well, I love it. I love that the Arcturians are helping us with this. I guess it could be programming, belief systems, or patterns. They're energetic patterns that really keep us from radiating our higher light, stepping up and doing bigger things. So give us the premise. How did this come about for you? How did you come up with this series?
Mhm. Yeah, Michael Gervais, kind of sports psychologist, I think is the one who's been currently using that term, FOPO. It's very close to FOMO, which I think a lot of people are aware of, fear of missing out. And FOPO is sort of, maybe it's a cute way or just a catchy way to say something that people are very aware of, and that's fear of other people's opinions. Of course, this is something that we're very hardwired biologically to want the approval, starting from when we're young with our parents or whoever our primary caregiver is, leading into adolescence, where it's, I think, highly accentuated, and then finally into adulthood, where in the past, maybe not so much in the modern age, but probably even worse than death was to be sort of kicked out of the tribe, so to speak. And that was actually a form of sort of ultimate punishment. And so we have that fear of not being accepted by the group or individuals. And so I think it runs deep, but now in this sort of day and age, or even back then in history, it was something that kept us from sort of living our highest self, sort of our most cherished ideals, and therefore absorbing the ideals of the group or someone else. And in its most pathological form, it can lead to sort of really the when we see the acts that we consider are horrible or barbarous, that's actually a form of wanting to stay within the group. It just happens that that group or that leader was actually very pathologically twisted or going on a sort of a difficult path. And you'll see people who actually fought that because they were able to overcome this need for societal or the group approval, and then able to sort of hold what might be the light in that case.
Yes. Okay. And so, wow, hearing you talk, we can look out at our current world and, it's a good time to clear this once and for all because our authentic self must come forward now, and our higher self, through our authentic self, can come forward now and create solutions for great change on our planet as things crumble. It's a way to step forward with those ideas that we have, with the inspiration that we have, instead of holding on to them because we think we care about what other people think, right? Like, why do we care about what other people think? And it's just because of these energetic patterns that you're talking about and past life experiences. So it's really in our DNA and our genetics, our physical structure. So these transmissions then will help us with that. Go over the three types of transmissions that we'll be doing here.
Yeah, and especially now, I think as we're moving into the description of the transmissions, we're much more connected socially through, of course, social media, and having different accounts on social media, and some of the people, of course, who are interacting with, we may have never actually had a deep relationship with, they actually just may be someone like looking at our posts and so forth. But many people, particularly those who become very well known through sort of the social media or the internet, or even just for their activity, but then become a public figure, they're now much more influenced perhaps by a lot of different posts or what other people are thinking of them, but they're actually not a deep relationship to them. It's just there happens to be a lot more sort of eyes on different people. Even if you just simply had an account on like Instagram, with a couple, tens or hundreds of people, you're still being influenced by probably most of those people you don't know very personally. And so this may be different for different age groups. Those who may not have grown up with social media may not have as much uh, an effect on them, but definitely people who grew up into social media, that might be their world. So we're talking about tens, 20s, 30s, where that becomes very important to them. But then they may be sort of hijacked in terms of their own core values, or not being able to find their core values because it's created out of this sort of social interaction that was the norm. uh, and so there's different effects, but I think overall, like we were mentioning here, it is something that's hardwired and very easy to, I think what I call subconsciously fall into, is that you're really always considering what other people are thinking and never finding your sort of true light or your true values. So the transmissions basically are broken up into three areas, very similar to healing, energy healing, where you're first clearing those patterns that you may not want in general, or that may be holding you back. And so this idea of the FOPO, or fear of other people's opinions, is the pattern, the general overall pattern, but that's kind of taken from a multi-dimensional level. So it could be physically in terms of the biology. Then we have the energetic pattern. We have the emotional and mental pattern, maybe a karmic pattern to have that sort of in place. And then finally, a spiritual level where we might be thinking also of past lives, where we kind of continued with that pattern, and maybe we're asked to learn how to step out of that and to kind of hold our own light, maybe our own soul information, even when challenged by what the group or the norm was. That's the first transmission.
Wow, that's really powerful. All right, dissolving those energetic patterns also from the group, and it'll happen at the multi-dimensional level. That's what I love about it. All right, so then the next transmission will be installing the energetic patterns that focus on our core values. So will we have to identify our core values or focus on those core values? Some people, because of this, may not even know what their core values are.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's the multi-pronged aspect of the second transmission is some people may have already in place what their core values are. Some may not be fully conscious of what those might be, and the transmission can help both groups in terms of either strengthening or making more conscious and clear what one's core values are. And that's really what would be one's authentic contribution, to the world or to humanity or to their group, is really kind of your own song, so to speak, singing your own song, and maybe not necessarily following the group song or trying to imitate someone else's song. At first that might be a way to find one's own song, but sometimes there isn't that avenue to find one's own song, even in that sort of practice period. And then there's the group that, like you said, maybe we're not really aware because we've been following something else for so long. And these energetic patterns, which really are coming, the beings who are being asked to help us, our guides, is really coming from our higher self, with the most assistance, probably from our holy guardian angel, to really access what are our true core values and to bring those through our core intentions. Sort of our own song, maybe is the best poetic way to say it, and to make that more conscious in the beginning, and then to have the capacity to focus on that true song that's coming from us.
Yes, all right. That's a journey to begin right there. Our authentic song, our soul song, who we are. And so, would you say for those who are watching this introduction that if they decide to come to these transmissions, is that something for them to ponder here ahead of time? Is what would their core values be? And now that we're talking about it, it would be really the purpose why we incarnated, would you say? It's like we are here to anchor light on the planet or to radiate light. Would those be the core values, or maybe integrity, or maybe just showing up authentically? Maybe that's a core value as well.
Yeah, I think one of the kind of exercises that's very helpful from a lot of different spiritual traditions, also a lot of warrior traditions like the samurai or even Tibetan Buddhism, but of course other traditions is in this modern research. Maybe people are aware of Bonnie Ware. She wrote this very popular book. She was a hospice nurse who then wrote her experiences of working with thousands of people, in their last 3 months to 3 weeks. And sort of one of the things they regretted the most of those who had regrets, although some people didn't, is that they didn't live their life because they were worried about what other people thought.
Mm.
So really the simple question is, if you were to die today, what would be your regret? Would you have any regrets? It's very simple, but very kind of straight to the point. And if there are any regrets, then this might be your song. This might be your song that's not being sung. And that might be a kind of a seed question to ask, like you said before, whether, yeah, even if they didn't feel guided to the transmissions, that's a great question to ask, and really kind of puts you right where you need to in terms of finding kind of what your core values are.
Excellent. Okay, beautiful. So then the third transmission, and as we go into these transmissions, they can be done in any order, I want to just say, because it's quantum and multidimensional. And they are, they're held in this container of love, and the group energy amplifies it for all of us. It's really quite exquisite how that works. So this third one is, again, with our guides, our teachers, the Arcturians, the holy guardian angel, and our higher self. Then we will be flipping the switch. Tell us about flipping the switch.
Yeah, I think a lot of this is first and very importantly done on the intellectual level, the mental level. But I think as most people have experienced, sometimes you can really get things right mentally, and then the life sort of challenges you, or you feel like you've worked through an issue, which you have at a certain level, and then maybe a couple months later or years later, you see that you're actually something triggers that same issue, and you realize you thought you had kind of cleared it, but it's actually coming up through an experience. And I think it's sometimes a very intense experience that can kind of go to a deeper level of any general issue. So usually at some point, we kind of get, okay, yeah, I got it. I'm going to die today. But of course, we can't really always embody that. Okay, I regret this. And then we kind of, okay, yes, I understand this is my core value. But then it's really when you maybe some life experience, some very intense experience, maybe you do actually come to a very real brush with death, or maybe even some people who do have near-death experience, so they actually did experience that. Then there's something of a deeper embodying that this is why I came, and if someone's going to make fun of me, or if my closest family members aren't going to really support it, that's fine. Still love them, but I really have to do this for my own integrity. And it's not intellectual anymore. It's very deep. And I call that flipping the switch. So it's usually experiential, where all of a sudden you're like, I'm just going to go do this. And there's a deep sort of sense of that. And I think you can't really transmit that to somebody per se. You can maybe ask the higher beings, which we're doing here with the transmissions, and your higher self, if that hasn't happened, or if it's happened, to kind of integrate it, to lay down the seed for that to happen at its appropriate time. But I think it's a blessing when you get those experiences. They're usually very difficult. They can be very difficult. Of course, they can be very graceful too, or both. But they usually kind of almost put you into a corner where you are going to let go of whatever scaffolding was keeping sort of maybe that less authentic aspect of yourself in place.
Ah, very good. Wow. All right. So these transmissions will support us in that and anchor in downloads, energetic downloads that assist us with that. It's really interesting because, as we know from near-death experiences, those who've had them, their lives absolutely change. Not everyone, but the majority. I mean, we can go out and I think every person that I've interviewed on a near-death experience, their life absolutely did change. So it's
Hmm.
like their back is against the wall and everything makes sense. And the interesting thing is, they came back. They consciously chose to come back for work that was not done. And it goes back from healing instances, people who've had physical healings, or new abilities and talents or psychic abilities that come forward from that. And so with these transmissions, we don't need an NDE, but we can consciously do this work from that perspective, from the transmission, energetic transmission perspectives. So it's powerful that we can, wow, shift our frequency around this. It feels really good right now. And we haven't even done a sample transmission. Is there anything else you'd like to say about these transmissions or near-death experiences, for example?
Yeah, I think you really sort of hit the nail on the head exactly, particularly for the flipping the switch idea or transmission is that we consciously choose, how we're going to show up, whatever that might be. If it's going to be our sort of relaxed self, or our intense self, or our best self. Yeah. But we've consciously chosen that, and not sort of unconsciously allowed external forces to dictate how we show up. And I think there is that possibility, and even that probability, that unless we're sort of guided to actually consciously make that decision of how we're going to show up in the world, that there's a lot of forces that would probably maybe just maybe even want us just to show up in the way they would like us to show up, as a conformity and so forth. So I think that that's the crux of flipping the switch also, is that there's a conscious choice of how you're going to show up in the world.
Yes, and just listening to you, and when you said that some people choose to be intense, wow. You would think that the intensity comes from the FOPO, fear of other people's opinions, because that would be what makes us so intense, because we care so much about that. Where it really seems like we all just want to be happy and joyful. I mean, that just feels so much lighter. So it just seems so much more fun, happy
Mhm.
and joyful. So, okay, wonderful. We invite everyone watching and listening to check this out. If your heart resonates with this and it feels good to you, then join us. Join us for these 3 live transmissions. They're on Zoom. We're in a nice group. We get to see each other, or you don't have to show yourself, but it's almost like family. And it's so good to see everyone who does join us that we see time and time again as well, and also the new folks. So it's always a good time to share a little mini transmission, Gene, so that we can sample the frequencies. And I want to invite everyone watching and listening to just witness this, not to think too much about it, but just to pay attention to the energies and see what you notice. If you don't notice anything, that's fine. But let's just go for that now and see what we get.
Yeah, why don't we do some of the flipping the switch energies or frequencies,
Okay.
and people can experience that. If you had an intention, if that sort of is a particular issue or experience that you're sort of working with, then you can set an attention, or if it's something you'd just like to lay down as a seed and see how it unpacks. This will be about 5 minutes. So we're starting the Arcturian flipping the switch energetic download. You can just relax and receive. Maybe you'll feel type of buzzing or vibration, particularly above your head coming down. You may feel it in your hands or feet or any place in your body. I'm usually just silent as the transmission is coming into your field and consciousness. We're entering a second deepening cycle of the Arcturian flipping the switch transmission. It's about really this decisive moment where one chooses to live one's authentic life despite any external approval or disapproval. And we're entering the third deepening cycle and integrating deeply the shifts or energies and information. And that completes the sample of the Arcturian flipping the switch transmission energies. You can gently but firmly come back to your physical body now. When you feel comfortable, you can open your eyes and snap your fingers.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much for that mini sampling. That energy was interesting. I have to share. And when we first started, I heard almost like an engine sound, like vroom, vroom, three pulses, vroom. Okay. And then, I mean, I really felt that, and it was right in the beginning of my head. Then it almost felt like it reversed, like it flipped. Was that my imagination? I don't know, but that's how I felt the energy. And it was as it was going reverse, it just felt like tranquila, like tranquility, relaxation. And then with each of the deepening phases, there were no thoughts. And so it was almost like the dissolving of energetic patterns. And I could see myself in a situation where instead of speaking my voice for something that I care deeply about, having to do with the environment on a particular issue, that I didn't do it because of this FOPO. And so that right there in itself is very empowering. So we can see how just a short little energetic transmission like this is empowering in its own right. So thank you for that. It really is remarkable, these frequencies and these energies, and how different they are received by everyone.
Oh yeah, yeah, and we'd been discussing this recent trip that I had on the Inca Trail. I think a lot of some of this energy of the flipping the switch and overall these energies, although not couched in that sort of Andean spirituality, but I think a lot of the transmissions are coming through in this series.
Let's talk really quickly about that. You just spent 6 days hiking the Inca Trail with, you said 22 people?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Camping. This is hiking every day. Wow. So very ancient, tribal. Uh, what was the dream space like for you during that trip? Did you have any revelations or insights?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the altitude, as people who might be aware of the trekking, particularly like in whether it's Inca Trail or different high altitude trekking, that definitely affects you even with preparation and so forth. So I think that definitely had an effect on my consciousness, the consciousness of the group. But I think that sort of very, like you mentioned, primal, you're very much on the ground, living at least close to the ground for that short amount of time, 6 days. And so there's like just an ongoing transmission from nature, which I think has a lot to do with, you particularly also with pilgrimages, what I've learned maybe energetically from my experience is that that walking, why that's been a tradition in all different spiritual traditions to like walk for a long time to a sacred power spot, and how that's purifying is sort of like all of these FOPO information patterns, whatever they may be. They kind of like, get stimulated by your legs hitting the ground and like released into the ground, is the way I sort of see it energetically. Um, So I think that that's why I feel like embedded in these transmissions is that experience.
Well, we are looking forward to joining you from your energetic vibration from that trip. It will influence all of us, radiate out to all of us, just like that beautiful image behind you. Very cool. Thank you so much for this time today. And again, we invite everyone to join us. Please do. It's really magical, these very sacred vessels that we create here. We're looking forward to seeing you. Jean, is there anything else you'd like to say?
I was thinking about maybe ending with this quote from maybe some people have heard it from Steve Jobs. It
Oh,
was,
yes.
yeah, I think it's kind of embodies that idea of embracing our authentic self. It was part of his address to, I think, Stanford undergraduates, and he was maybe 2 years he had already known he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. So he sort of was like, knew he was at this, maybe living on right at the edge of sort of being, having limited time, which I think also can bring you to this sense of, living your authentic self. I wouldn't call it boxing you into a corner, but maybe getting you into that flipping the switch condition, which needs some sort of almost heat or intensity. But maybe we'll just read some of that, and just because it embodies a lot of what we were saying. But he was saying, remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life. Because almost everything, all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. You are already naked. There's no reason not to follow your heart. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinion drown out your own inner voice. And most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become. Everything else is secondary.
That is so relevant and beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. What a beautiful soul. And I can feel his overlight right here with us in this moment. Makes me want to cry. And it's empowering. It really is empowering. So live it to the fullest, everyone. And thank you for watching this program. And thank you for joining us if your heart feels the call, and live your heart's desire. It's so beautiful. That's why we incarnated. Thank you, Jean, for this beautiful session.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, everyone.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.